Hi, I'm Bob Canoten. On this episode of the Camp Chaos Chronicles, we're going to determine whether this car, a 1989 Jaguar XJS Rouge Edition, is parts or a project. And truthfully, I could go either way. Dang it. So where do we stand with Big Red here? Well, after episode 2, where we started to work on getting the car running, we really didn't know much other than the fact that the fuel injection worked, the fuel pump worked, but the ignition didn't appear to be generating any spark. Without spark, the EFI isn't supposed to run. So we really didn't determine after that episode whether this is a project car or a parts car. We're gonna try to make that decision now. A lot of that is gonna have to do with, can we get this thing running or not? And how well does it run? Now, if it does run, even if it runs poorly, that's gonna be a big plus, because then we can drive the thing around the yard as opposed to having to drag it around with a tractor. But that doesn't mean it's gonna be a good project car. It appears to be solid and there's a lot of good things going for it, but it's really got to run and drive pretty darn well for me to make the decision that yes, this is going to be a project car. So this is kind of an important episode for Big Red here. So what about the red car? Well, what I did is I took a little time and took the Morelli cap, what was on the convertible to begin with, and took a Dremel tool with a brush on it and lightly cleaned the electrodes there, and also that brass ring in the center around the outside of that. And you know what? This looks pretty darn good. The terminals inside the towers look really good, and even the rotor kind of cleaned up. Now, obviously, what you don't want to do is to really work these surfaces to the point where you're removing a lot of material. There's a specific gap that there needs to be between that terminal on the rotor and these terminals in the cap. I also, when I got this cap cleaned up, put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and it really looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these two pieces and we're going to put them on the red convertible and see what happens. I don't think it's going to change the situation, but it's worth a try. Got the cap and plug wires reinstalled with a rotor. See what it does. So at this point, the only thing we really haven't checked out is the crankshaft position sensor and flywheel sensor on the back of the engine. And they're both the same sensor, and I happen to have one. If one of these is not working, that'd be great. If both of them aren't showing any life, then I gotta buy a $150 position sensor to maybe get this thing running, which will not be a lot of money, but you know, it'd be great if we could get this thing running for pennies. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these connectors loose one at a time, hook up a voltmeter, and see if we get any action at all out of them. Now, if the ignition isn't in fact working, which we know it's not getting spark, you've got to have a functioning ignition system to get the EFI working. And in order for the ignition to work, you got to have both of those sensors working. Unless there's something going on that I'm not aware of. If you know more about this than I do, leave a comment down below. I'd love to know. So this is the crankshaft position sensor. And this is the flywheel sensor. Well, I think we may have found the problem. Kind of flies in the face of my understanding that the fuel injection won't work as long as the ignition isn't working, and I don't believe that it can work without a signal from the flywheel sensor. So we're gonna have to replace it. So what we've done today, first of all, is we've put fuel in it to make sure that we got plenty of fuel in it. I'm confident we got about a quarter of a tank and had at least half of that in there when we tried to start it before. We've also taken the defective flywheel position sensor out and replaced that with one that is known to be good. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to try to get this thing started. If this doesn't work, I got some studying to do to go beyond this, because this is the common stuff. Fuel injection's working, the ignition wasn't working. I could try that, to see if we got spark now, but it's like 92 degrees out here, and I need to determine whether this thing will run or not, and if not, I'm kind of done for the day. So let's see what goes on. Okay, cycle the key a few times to get the fuel pump to deliver fuel for sure. And let's see what happens. Oh, that's incredible. Oh, it's running like crap, but there's something splashing around up front there. Coolant cap was loose. Let's see if this thing actually drives. Whoa! Well, I'm calling that a success for today anyway. This is all I really need to know at this point. Kind of surprised that it started up that rapidly, so that's a good thing. So that flywheel sensor was apparently the cause of the issue. There's a lot good about this car, and there's some real negatives about it as well. The good things are, number one, the body is in really solid shape. I got a chance to get under it today, and it certainly doesn't look like a Minnesota car. It's really solid. All the jack points are really solid. Usually that's particularly in the back, which also serves as the location of the rear trailing arms attaching to the body. A lot of times those will be rotten. These are really solid. Everywhere it looks really good. So other positives, the interior is in really good condition as well. There's no tears in the seats. The leather is nice and soft. it hasn't been sitting out in the sun for long periods of time like so many of them are, like old Tex was. So the dash is good, the seats are good, the console is good. The hatch on the console compartment, that could stand to be re-dyed. The only real negative about the interior is a headliner. The trunk, that's kind of a mess. We need that's going to take some work to detail that, although that's the sort of thing that a person would do in the wintertime when you're not driving the car. And the chrome is in really good shape. The bumpers are good, just a little bit of buffing, and also the rubber or the plastic covers are good. There's just a lot really good about the exterior and the basic body of the vehicle. It also seems like when I was driving it, admittedly, it was just around the quadrangle, around the buildings here, it really felt tight. You won't know that until we get it on the street. Transmission shifted well, first and second. Couldn't get to third, obviously, but that seemed good. The transmission linkage needs to be adjusted because in order to get reverse, I had to go outside of the gate and forward a little bit, but that's just a simple adjustment. Transmission felt really tight. As soon as I put it in drive, bang, it was ready to go. The mirrors work as well. Windshield wipers work. I don't know about the instrument cluster because I had that removed in order to take the steering column out and put it back in. So we got to get that back in to see whether all the lights and all the gauges and everything work. So we got some work to do there. Negatives. The really big thing at this point is that we have to get a title for it because it came without a title, bought on a bill of sale. I don't believe that that's particularly difficult. It takes a lot of time to do that. So if I get started on it now, which is the first week of August, I might be able to get that sometime this fall. Other things that are negative, the engine, first of all, runs really poorly. A lot of missing, although when you get into the throttle a little bit, it seems to smooth out, so there's hope there. When I was under the car doing the replacement of the flex plate sensor, I got a good look at underneath there, and number one, it was really solid. Number two, the reason for a lot of that is that there's a lot of oil leaks under there. That could be simple replacement of gaskets, or it could be, I don't know. I don't want to speculate. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here. It remains to be seen whether this is a parts car, a really nice parts car, or it may actually be a project. Not for me, because I got projects coming out of my ears right now, but maybe somebody else, maybe you. Now, if you like these videos, like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment down below so we know we do better. And we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicles.